Good afternoon, the internet. It's Josiah here again. Here to talk about something explicitly that I don't think is going to get mentioned very much otherwise. And if you all can figure out a hashtag for this, please do so, because this is one of those opportunities for political observation that will pass us by if we don't use the means of communication, which sadly I am not skilled at. I want to talk about the Texas power failures. The Texas power failures are, on a technological level, primarily due to the fact that the gas industry did not winterize and the grid did not winterize sufficiently. That's what happened, is that they didn't prep for cold that they knew would happen eventually, and then their equipment froze and stopped working, and then they don't have enough power. That's what happened. And this kind of disaster, right? Like the head count's like 20 people have died, all the property damage. This kind of failure is a failure of governance. Right? There are technological failures. There's a weather event, blah blah blah. But this is a predictable weather event that was not prepared for. That's governance. And specifically, it's a failure of the politics of deregulation. Now, the politics of deregulation is largely just a scam to lower taxes. So it doesn't even make any sense. But this is a failure of Republican ideology. The Texas state government barely does anything. They clearly didn't do enough on this front. They have power regulators who could have and should have done something. This happened 10 years ago, and they promised they would do something about it, and they didn't. And now it's happened again. People are dying, and stuff is breaking that is much more expensive to fix than the cost of the preparation that they should have done. And so you have all of the losses of life, of property, but whose budget sheets does that show up on, right? The household losses. Chances are that's going to show up in household budgets. It's not going to show up in the power industry's bottom line unless somebody sues them successfully, which, God only knows. Definitely not me. What about the state's interest in getting future investment? Right? Like if you're a out-of-state company, you're not going to invest in some place that doesn't do the basics. And what if you're an international company relying on some local piece of gear or some local piece of industry? You've got a data center, or you rely on the output of the refinery or a pipeline that's currently frozen or out of power. And what if you're a person and you're dead now, or you're a person and your loved one is dead now? There's an entity that is responsible for keeping all of those things in mind, and then using the force of regulation to make people behave in a way that is best for the total sum interests of people over time. And it's the government. And we have nominally a political party that does not believe in that role, does not believe in that function. And this is what happens when you let them run things. This is a failure of Republican ideology. Those people who are dead would not be dead under Democratic rule. All of those frozen pipes, all of that water damage, all of that plumbing that needs to be redone, all of that infrastructure that's broken now would not need to be repaired had the Republican ideology not gone off the deep end and abandoned their responsibilities to look out for the interests of the community. This is not a weather story. This is not an infrastructure story. This is a story about a political ideology becoming so crazy that it lets things like this happen. And it's a huge problem, and it will continue to get worse. So if you can think of a way to make that snappy and spread it around, just throw that hashtag around. I don't know. But they had an idea, and their idea drove Texas into a blackout. Because their idea is bad. It is flawed. And they took it too far. And now people are dead. And people are broke. And things are broken. And it's their fault. Anyway, I just wanted to say that really clearly. I hope that helps clarify things. And hit me up with your ideas about how to make that viral.